I've used a lot of essay questions, usually in the form of a case question. So I give the student a case and ask them to apply their knowledge upon the case.
What's interesting, and I work with a lot of colleagues developing multiple choice and open questions, that you see that the first thing I want them to do is write the answer to what they want a student to produce. And if it can be done in 3 sentences and it's very black and white, then we have the discussion, is it really an open question? Where can the student bring in new insight or in a new perspective?
There will be some small tricks. First of all, the open questions are often formed with several sub-questions. In the sense that the students, if they don't know the right answers for the whole question, they can at least get some points for small parts of it. I think that's important, so they are still confident to write something about it.
So I think the creation of multiple choice or open questions is equally as hard. It's just it's a different skill.
Usually, the first sub-question is really about the key concepts or something in the book or in the lecture which it can directly relate to. And the follow-up questions should be with more analytical elements. It could be either about their understanding of these concepts, could be about a case related to the concepts, or could be some further elaboration or explanation about these concepts. So I think it's important in the sense that the logic of the open question should be built from simple to difficult sub-questions.
The problem is that many teachers think it's easier to make open questions, so we end up using open questions. But I would certainly have my concerns if that's really valid and reliable in the long term with 600 students that have to be graded.
So the grading part is harder because there's a lot of reading involved, and depending on the amount of creativity you ask from the student, it takes a lot of time.
They are difficult to write, especially if you need to come up with some sort of grading scheme for it, because the idea with an open-ended question usually is that there's not one correct answer, there's multiple. So you need to be able to take the multiple correct answers into account when figuring out how to grade a question. And that's really difficult, because sometimes a student can come up with something that you didn't account for, but which is really, really good. So how do you do that? So for the grading part, open questions can be quite tricky, but they are fun, definitely.
First, if I didn't really study, of course it will be difficult, but some questions might be difficult if it's different from what it's taught in the class sometimes. Like something new suddenly come up in the question, then it will be very difficult.
A lot of open questions are very closed. And then we get into issues with, for example, on the formal side with thesis and plagiarism, or just the dumb fact that the student really can't bring too much into this question because it's just so factual.
It's also difficult to find subpoints to split the open question in such a way that you are helping them in solving the question.
I could answer an open-ended question the way I think is right, but it doesn't mean that that's how it's asked of me, or that that's what a person is expecting to hear, or in an assessment, of course, is the right answer.
The problem with the open questions is that if students make a mistake at the beginning of the question, that mistake trickles down until the end of the question. And it makes it very difficult to grade because we need to keep track of the mistake that they made.
What I often see with a lot of open questions from my colleagues are questions that really could be a multiple choice, but since everybody doesn't like multiple choice, then we'll put it in an open question and then we feel better about it.
What I don't like about open-ended question is I'm tired of writing. So if we have, like, for example, 2 hours for examination, and then you have to write a lot, but sometimes the inspiration doesn't come really fast.
What I really like about open-ended questions is that I'm able to produce my knowledge the way that I've learned things. So the professor can see not only that I understand a theory, but also my thought behind it, my real in-depth understanding. I'm also able to explain myself better in both qualitative and quantitative courses.
What I like about it is it allows students to be creative in their answer, and it also allows them to show that they know how to apply it. And I think that the translation from something you learned or that you heard in a lecture or that you read in a book, translating that to the real world and actually doing it yourself, I think that's such an important step, and such a, at least I always thought it was a fun step to be able to do that. Okay, I'm actually applying it now, and now I get it, and now I see how fun it can be.
What I like about open-ended question is I can express, because I think answering open-ended question is just like doing an essay. So you have an argument, and then you have to structure your argument and give explanations and also give the example. That's what I like. So I can show the reader that I really understand.
In a multiple choice question, if I'm not able to find the middle answer and then I have to use that to calculate further on, I don't get any points. But in an open question, I'm able to provide all the work, and if the work is correct but the answer in the midway might be wrong, I'm still getting a lot of points for understanding how to actually apply my knowledge.
I can ask questions about remembering, about understanding, and I can go even towards evaluating. So they are more flexible in this way.
What I like about open-ended questions is that it allows for interpretation and multiple ways of answering a question, bringing multiple aspects, and that there is not just one right or wrong answer. There's not just apples or pears. There's multiple ways to answering that question, and also incorporates opinions sometimes. So.
From the evaluations that I receive from students, they like open-ended questions. They feel that they can express themselves better, they can show their knowledge better in open-ended questions.
Since I'm learning social sciences now, I would say that yes, definitely yes, it's really fair.
For the students who really study very hard, open question is their chance to really lift their grade and to provide a good answer with their own understandings, and also try to give very precise, let's say, explanations of each of the sub-questions. But for the others, if it's something that they didn't really understand so well, that will be a really big challenge to answer the open questions.
I think it is quite fair to assess with the open question, because every student will come up with different answers, and they will show their own knowledge about the subject.
It's a necessary evil that they kind of have to go through. They've learned a lot more than what's going to be on there. They're going to throw some of the bigger ideas in and maybe some connections, and then they kind of hope that what they've put there is good enough.